Yeah. Did you want to do the executive?
Yeah, we'll go into executive session at the end of the meeting.
Deb?
Hi, Deb.
So you want to,
Yeah, so we have yeah, we have a motion to that I think I will just move the motion and we can discuss it, but let me read it. Regarding the the flood mitigation program. The motion is the Weston Select Board approves of advancing an application for the Lawrence Hill Road Bridge Upgrade Project to the FEMA Hazard Mitigation Grant Program under the River Project, which is a resilience initiative for Vermont empowerment and recovery. Stone Environmental, Megan Arpino, and Wyndham Regional Commission, Alyssa Sabeto, will coordinate with the town to finalize HMGP Hazard Mitigation Grant Program application materials for submission to Vermont Emergency Management. The application will be submitted to obtain funding for final design and project implementation. The town understands that should the application be awarded, final design choices will be subject to approval by the Weston Select Board. And I think that would include implementation. Is that right? That you left implementation out of?
I mean, if there's some choices associated with implementation, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to add the and implementation design choices. Yeah, that's the motion.
What is the point of adding implementation, Jim? Just clear it up.
Just to be clear, that, and this is one of the things that concerned the folks at the community association, was that in the case of the community association, they're involved in the design process. They have basically veto power and very strong input into all the design elements, and as well as the construction project itself. In other words, how the design gets what's the word I'm looking for, implemented. And we have that same power. And
Okay.
And
is that in writing someplace?
He just added it.
That'll be showing up in the
Motion.
in the motion. Yeah. And you guys said this last night, if for some reason the whole thing, even after funding, if there are some intractable issues, we can bow out, if I understand that correctly. But honestly, I don't see that as a
Jim, I would say that, just to kind of clarify that point, I think that you could bow out at any point up to a certain point. And then, once the funding is in your hand, once you have the funding, then you've agreed to do the project, so it would be expected that you've agreed to do the
Okay.
project. So, there is a point, you can't say. you
Well,
can't expect-
subject to success, the funding first, but then a successful detailed design, which we
Yeah, that
have to
would
have,
be,
yeah,
yeah, you
we
would,
have to have,
yes,
you
I
know.
think that there's gonna be a number of choices you would have in the design
Yeah.
process, and also to do with the construction or implementation phase, there will be choices that the town would likely have.
Right.
Or would have, you're the main state.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, of course, you would be involved in making those choices. Yeah.
Right. And that, the funding, if I understand and I don't have a copy of the email I sent you on this, but I have my little hand drawn
Oh,
timeline.
Yeah.
The grant application, the deadline for the grant application is the end of April of this year.
Yeah.
And then there is a review by a state group.
Yeah.
And that roughly is gonna happen, that will be done by June, July, right?
I
of
would say
this
the
year.
applications are going to be submitted from the state in June or July. Yeah.
Right,
this summer.
the
So
approved
the approval will happen
applications.
in the midst
Yeah.
of that time.
Right.
Yeah.
And then FEMA review is going to take, you said, until sometime first quarter of twenty
Yeah, I would
twenty-seven.
expect around 9 months or so.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, things are hard to predict.
Right, yes, exactly. And so the actual grant award, if the money is granted, will happen basically sometime toward the end of the first quarter of 2026. So
That's an estimate, yeah.
basically a year from now or a little bit longer. So there's plenty of time for us to, to be exploring all these aesthetic things, the detailed designs of how much we're gonna raise it, how much we're gonna widen it. Is it gonna be 15, is it gonna go from 50 feet to 65 feet or to 62
Yeah.
feet or 60? So all those things are in play, as well as looking at the bridal catalog for
Yeah.
pony bridges.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I was saying, I'm not sure everyone knew that, but we were able to get kind of like a lookbook of different versions of the truss bridge from case studies from Context, who's the engineering bridge manufacturer we're working with, and so we'll share that with you all. It is that truss style, so trying to find the hydraulic capacity, minimize the deck width, minimize the roadway elevation impacts, but it shows some pictures that are much more comparable to your setting, the first one we were able to get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're locked in on truss, is that where
No,
we're not locked in on
we
truss?
are not locked in on truss,
Okay.
in my opinion.
Okay, that's fine, that's fine. It's early.
We could come to you and say, we absolutely will not have a truss. And therefore, you are going to have to gain all your hydraulic capacity by widening the bridge, and there's gonna be no rising of the lower deck. That seems to me is a theoretical possibility. The odds of that happening are approaching zero, but it's just not a smart way to execute this program if your goal is to increase the hydraulic capacity of the bridge. But I want to emphasize, I think it's important to emphasize that there's a lot of back and forth in terms of choices.
Yeah, and one thing I do want to clarify though about your thinking about, when you're making the choices and stuff, is that after we submit the grant application, then we're in like a holding pattern to see if it gets awarded before we have consulting support and my own support to again have full scale conversations about design choice and all of these
Sure.
things. So I mean, it's not as if we would be continuing on with this level of support to the town in the meantime, because we don't know what the outcome would be of the grant.
Yeah,
award.
and neither do we.
Yeah, so I mean, I just want you to know
Yeah.
that there's gonna be a period of time where this is on basically kind of a pause.
Yeah.
Until we see what happens with the.
Right.
the money.
Well, there's one thing you have to remember on the bridge is the library is gonna be applying for an access permit. And part of the access permit is line of sight. And with that rail bridge, they're not gonna get it. So they wouldn't get their permit if the rail bridge is scheduled to be put in there.
I don't know what that means, Denny.
Well, the arch bridge, Howie, goes up and over. And as you're pulling out of what you would perceive would be the library parking lot, trying to look towards the post office, that arch bridge would block your view. And you wouldn't
Oh,
have.
you
a
mean
clear
for
line.
safety purposes?
You're right.
Could that be mitigated with a mirror? Like it
No.
is in 99% of the world?
No, not really.
Okay.
Well,
And Debbie,
Can I just ask a question? I apologize for being late. So did we jump to the end of the
Mm.
agenda?
yes,
jumped to
yes,
this
we're on
to allow
item 9
them-
in the agenda.
Sorry.
If it feels like we're on item 9 of the agenda, it's because
We
we're
are.
on item 9 of the
Okay.
agenda.
But I thought, boy, you are efficient. You got through those first 8 agenda
No,
items.
no.
In my
fast.
dreams.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to check. And when is appropriate, I have a statement from the library that I would like to read
Mhm.
into the record. So I have
Sure.
copies for select board members. So when that's appropriate, just let me know.
and it seems to me like there's a lot of things hanging in the air. So how can you apply for a grant or give a number for the grant you want when you've got all these unanswered questions?
Yeah. Right. That's a very good point, and we see this a lot with these types of projects. Is you go through this conceptual phase, and maybe up to preliminary, where you're understanding the site constraints, you're understanding what impacts you need to mitigate to help maintain, access to things like the dry hydrant, the library. You're understanding all those site constraints at this stage. You're coming up with a cost estimate for a design, and you're usually adding a contingency to that cost of at least 30% at this stage to help, budget for those unforeseen costs. And so that's one of those ways that we help, plan for that, because you need to do the fundraising for the final design and implementation based on the data you have from these feasibility studies, from the conceptual engineering. That background work helps support the funding application to get you the money to get the final design and implementation. That's kind of just the structure of this funding, so it's built into the process, that back and forth that Jim was talking about, and it happens over a long time.
Yeah, and Deb, just to, I think you were here when we started talking about timelines. I brought out my
I don't
little
know, I came
paper.
at 7:30, which I
Well,
thought was
whatever.
the time the meeting started.
As I run this out, the soonest, assuming that we come up with an acceptable design, and the funding, we get approved by the state review board, and it gets passed on to FEMA and it get approved by FEMA. And if, Elon Musk doesn't stick up the bank in Montpelier, the earliest, and understanding that the window for this kind of work is from July 1st to October 1st. So July, August, September, 3 months. Experience with Luciano notwithstanding, the earliest that this work could possibly be done is the July, August, September of 2027. But it looks to me like 2028 is a lot more,
Thank you.
a lot more likely, for what it's worth.
And then another thing in this scope of work that was pointed out last night. Something like making a water storage flood area on the left-hand side going north of the dam. There was,
Above, oh, yeah. I think you talking floodplain bench on the west side of the river above the dam.
okay. Time flies, but I'm gonna say 10 years, maybe a little longer ago. A group conserved the Walker Farm and sent out photos, asked for donations. We want to conserve this view up through here and this and that. And the state got involved. And the state says, well, okay, but nothing can be cut within 50 feet of the riverbanks. It's gotta be allowed to grow up. So people gave money and stuff. Now you're telling me you're going in and you're gonna make that bench thing there and remove all that brush that started to grow and everything. How's that gonna work when these people were told that this is gonna be this? And now all of a sudden it's gonna be changed.
Yeah.
Things change.
Yeah, but people gave money and they were told that that was the way it was gonna be, Howie.
But the plan also calls for the planting of new brush in that bench to replace what was lost. It's an evolution over time. I don't see a problem with that. I think it's a good idea to do that floodplain stuff because that's going to make more of a difference than not doing it. In fact, if that wasn't done, I'd object to the dam coming out, period. But if there's going to be other mitigation involved, that's just part of the process, I believe. And I don't know who they are. So do we have a list?
I don't have a list of donors that gave money to that, to conserving the Walker Farm. But a lot of people did give money. And there's a lot lacking in this study. They didn't go very far upstream and there's other things going on. So I
I agree with that.
thought
Yeah.
with you, I'm not in favor of the project.
I think
Which part? The bridge?
Oh, I was gonna say I was one of those people who gave money.
Aren't we focusing on the bridge here?
Yeah, the bridge, and there's no mention of how much the right-hand side of the riverbank is gonna be chewed out. It wasn't very clear on the description last night. If anything, on the right-hand side going up through is gonna be cut back or removed,
When you talk about right hand.
going north.
That's usually
North,
called river left. That was, you know, as you stand looking
Yeah.
downstream.
Right now, I'm
It's
looking
on your,
north.
yeah, I know, so you're looking upstream, so that's
East or west?
river left,
It would be the side that the Playhouse
Okay.
is on.
yeah.
Mhm.
Us girls who like a visual.
In French.
And is this above,
It's called the left bank. La Rive Gauche.
Ooh,
is that above the dam, Denny, or below the dam?
Above the dam.
Right, but we're talking about the bridge now.
Well, it all has to do with the bridge, but the bridge, like I said last night, the guy didn't really want to listen to me or anything. All them rock that were put in recommended, they could be pulled out and well, riverbed could be lowered probably 3 feet right there. And if you had a flood and it took out the footings, okay, then you spend $1.5 million, $2 million to replace the bridge, but it's not gonna cost a hell of a lot of money to pull them rocks away from the footings and lower the whole riverbed down through there.
Right, the only problem with that is that, in that case, who buys the bridge?
When we lose a bridge like that in a flood, I think it's either 75 or 90% state and
Digging out the river like that wouldn't be permitted to do, that wouldn't be something that A&R would allow for you to just.
they're allowing you to do all this other stuff, but they wouldn't allow you to do something that
Well,
wouldn't
the
tear.
stuff that they're allowing with the sediment removal above the dam would be to recreate the original, the natural stream channel depth, not,
Well, where we put them rocks up against them abutments, we filled in the river.
well, and the choices that things they allowed in the past are not the things they allow today, I mean. The way the regulations have changed, but A&Rs, they don't allow the dredging out of, that's something that we frequently get asked of towns, and it's not something they allow. Without,
Well, Denny has a point there. You're gonna be dredging, this project involves dredging out all that silt above the upstream of the dam.
Hold on. Andrew, I want to be very clear here. We're talking about the bridge, not the dam. The WCA has voted on the dam, so that's old news. We're simply talking about the bridge now.
Can you share with us what happened at the WCA? I did not
They
know.
approved
Okay.
the motion that
Okay. Okay.
Alyssa wanted.
Motion to proceed.
2.5 hours ago. So.
Yeah,
and-
both
And
meetings
we
were
said that at
scheduled
the
for this
meeting last
evening.
night, that we were gonna have that meeting today, Andrew.
Oh, okay. I had to leave it like just after 7, so I may have missed that. And it wasn't on, the rebroadcast was not on the website yet, so. I couldn't-
We don't have it yet.
But, you know, it looks to me like you got a backwards funnel. You're coming from north, south, and getting wider as you go south at the bridge. So the water's still gonna go over the banks up above. It's gonna come down to the bridge and all of a sudden expand, boom. And looks to me like all the benefits gonna be below the bridge, not above the bridge.
Well, you know, I should defer to Megan on this, but basically, if you have a bigger hole under a bridge, you avoid having the bridge act as a dam and push water up into the town. That's the point of making a bigger hole under the bridge. So that you avoid all the water that comes down the river is gonna wind up downstream, no matter what. If the question is,
Right.
is it going to go through the park and between the post office and the little school the way it did before, or is it gonna, go under the bridge and downstream to, wherever, Jamaica or Long Island Sound? Does that make sense?
Not really.
Megan, you can probably do better than I do.
So, we're looking at, so we're looking at these projects as a system along the West River through your town. And right now, both the bridge and the dam, during flooding conditions, they cause what's called a backwater. So the water can't move past them, kind of like an equilibrium, and it's causing a ponding upstream of both of those structures. And that's leading to the flooding that we saw in the maps that Andy showed last night, and I think have been shared with all of you in the draft report and whatnot. And so by increasing the hydraulic capacity of the bridge, that first location, we can reduce that backwater. So we're passing more water through during flood conditions. And then by removing the dam, we're removing that backwater upstream of the dam. So we're having that positive, we're having that reduction in flood levels upstream of the dam. When we remove the dam, that's causing that ponding. When you do both together, you have, the benefits of both of those projects at once. So you're removing both of those backwater conditions. The dam as it is impeding sediment transport along the West River. So the sediment that's accumulated behind the dam wouldn't naturally be there. And so that's when coming in and removing it, finding that historic stream channel that's lower, is helping us lower the river, lower the water surface, reduce the flooding. So those two projects kind of work together, and they're having impacts upstream of the structures. and not downstream.
If you don't do the bridge, you'll still have the ponding behind the bridge.
Yeah.
Choke point.
It's a choke
Yeah.
point, yeah, that's a great word for it, it's a choke point,
it
The
is.
pinch
And-
point is another word people use, it's pinch point for you.
Yeah, the deck is actually below the base flood elevation. So the bridge is undersized both from a height and a width standpoint. And the other thing that I was talking with Scott Jensen about it today, he's the river scientist of the ANR, and he deals with
Stream alteration.
yeah, stream alteration, yeah, thank you. He deals with the permitting, and he said the condition of this bridge it's not that bad. Like, basically, there's other bridges
Worse than this one.
where, yeah, but, so that's something that, this is 100% funding source for you to get this bridge upsized, that you may not have funding to support this bridge being remedied to allow for better floodwater passage without this funding source because of the condition of the bridge being not that bad. In other words, you're not gonna be eligible for other V-Trans grants to get a bigger bridge for quite a long time. So this funding source exists because of it being too small, but condition-wise, you might not have eligibility for other grant sources. So I just want you to understand that this is not only 100% funding, but it might not be easy to get this chance otherwise.
Does this grant opportunity affect the other grants that we apply for annually for different projects? Doesn't, because it's coming from
It's
FEMA?
yeah, so it's
Okay,
not gonna affect
perfect.
your V-Trans where you're at in line with other things,
Okay.
anything.
beautiful.
I hear a lot of silence.
I think Debbie is
Yeah,
waiting for her
yeah,
turn
sure.
and.
Um, a lot of stuff that I have in this, you've all already heard before. So I apologize for that, but this is kind of getting it in one place.
Yeah, she's the important one to get this.
So, thank you for letting me talk. I'm here, as chair of the library board, and I'm here on behalf of the library. And as I said, a lot of the stuff that I'm gonna say you've already heard, but trying to get it into one place. As you all know, the library is about to embark on a major renovation, repair, and expansion of its 200-year-old building. A project that the select board and the community has strongly supported. The project site plan, which has been approved by the state and town zoning, includes an ADA entrance to the library on the face of the library. It also includes much needed off-street parking and ADA parking spaces. All of this is on the so-called Riverside parcel next to the library building. The parking will be accessed by the way of a driveway on Lawrence Hill Road, which is what Dennis was referring to, the entrance to the parking area. The river project presented last evening aims to increase flood resilience in the village by constructing a 15, I know the dimensions are like totally up in the air, but constructing a 15-foot wider and 2-foot higher bridge on Lawrence Hill Road.
With all due respect, I would say longer rather than wider.
Okay, whatever you want. I mean, it's,
Well-
if you look at the drawings, they do use it up, doesn't matter.
Am I right, or is, if you,
Usually
I think if you
span-
increase the
span's a
width,
good word.
yeah,
Yeah, span.
And a 2-foot higher bridge on Lawrence Hill Road over the West River. The west end of the new bridge will be located immediately adjacent to the new library driveway. The river's conceptual plans call for regrading Lawrence Hill Road, raising the gabion wall, and modifying the library parking area, all to accommodate the higher level of the roadway to the bridge. We're concerned about the potential negative effect of these changes on the new library entrance. On the entrance that I was talking about, the door, the driveway, the flow of pedestrian traffic, and the existing entrance to the old Lawrence Hill Road building, because the roadway may come out so far that you're not going to be able to park in front of the old building anymore. It is essential that the driveway access be maintained and that despite the height and size of the bridge, vehicles exiting the library will be able to turn safely both right and left onto Lawrence Hill Road. I think this is what Denny was also talking about, sight lines. It is also essential that the regrading of the parking area does not interfere with the elevation of the proposed patio or ADA ramp at the northeast corner of the addition. We've expressed these concerns for many months, including with identical letters sent on August 23rd, 2024, to both Andrew Hoke and Megan Arpino, in which we wrote, quote, "Any recommendations regarding the resizing or widening of the Lawrence Hill Road Bridge over the West River must include and preserve vehicular access to the riverside property. If the bridge design fails to provide such access, it will not be possible to complete the library project." A couple of other observations. Design. The proposed Contact Colonial Pony Truss Bridge is heavy and industrial, quite different from the Village Truss Bridge of the early 20th century that was located over there someplace, and out of keeping with our village architecture. We would request that the conceptual design team explore the designs of other manufacturers, such as Algonquin and Excel, to identify a bridge that might be more in keeping with our village. Road closure and timing. Closing of Lawrence Hill Road for 4 months from a July 1 to an October 1 period raises concerns about fire protection for our library and other homes and buildings in the area, as well as the lack of parking and access for library patrons during this period. Nobody's going to be able to get in the library for those 4 months. Also, because the gabion wall is to be modified, we note that it is likely that a section 408 review by the Corps of Engineers will be required. Such reviews are lengthy and should be included in the project schedule for road and parking closure. Thank you again for giving me the chance to reinforce the library's concerns as the Select Board considers moving forward with the Bridge project. We are not here to stop the Rivers project, and we take no position on how the Select Board should vote. But it is our expectation that the library will have opportunity to participate in and review the design, the project schedule, and access to the library to address these concerns if and as the design moves into further conceptual and final versions. Again, thank you.
Thanks, Deb.
How far does this shelving reach out on the left side going north, right side coming down?
What do you mean by the shelving?
Well,
The
flood
bench.
shelving
How
bench.
wide? is it?
So there's no plan in the concept plan to like move the abutments or extend the bank on river left going north. So with the bridge, the expansion is all on river right looking north,
It's all gonna be in front of the town office.
all on this side to help accommodate that.
I also want to express, I am wearing my library hat, but I have the same concerns for the town office and the town property and Jeff Brown's house too. So I don't really know where all this is going, but that's why we have the engineers and design, so.
And just as a point of reference, I just sent to the select board and I'll post them on the Facebook page for the town later. Just a couple of pictures of the old truss bridge that used to be there before the current bridge was built, which does show it being a little less substantial, but still a wrought iron bridge with truss rails, kind of an old-fashioned pony style bridge, but not quite as robust as the model. So I sent those pictures just for reference.
Howie, I think that bridge you're talking about was replaced long before this one.
Oh, yes, I believe so too. Yeah. Yeah. But it was just the first of that style bridge that I found in the historical photos. I could probably find more.
There seems to be a lot of unknowns here and I'm very cautious about applying for a grant and get started, and then we get on the hook for a ton of money. It's-
Well, I don't think that's right, and I would defer to,
You're not on the hook for anything until you're until you're under contract to do things with, construction, which
Right.
would be quite a while.
but
Years.
well, wait a second, I think what Denny means is being on the hook to spend a bunch of money. Is that what you mean?
Right, because most of these projects start on goodwill, but they end up going over budget. What they said last night was if it goes over the approved grant, the town is liable for it.
Yes, but this is 100% funding, so you're not on the hook for anything. And if it went, the budgeting process and developing the budget is what is intended to protect you from that.
So I have- I
Right,
just have-
just quickly, it's hard for me to imagine that if you get a grant for a construction project and then you put it out for bids, if the bids come out a lot higher than the grant amount, you don't have to accept them. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
But usually when these type contracts are written, there's clauses in there. If there's unforeseen items that pop up during the construction and they can charge more for it. And we're locked in for a certain amount. Where's that money come from?
There is some risk, right? You are taking on some risk. However, you have to weigh that against this opportunity. This is not an opportunity I'll ever see again, likely. So, this is a 100% funded opportunity. We will be developing a budget that we feel is safe to complete this project with. And so, yes, there is some risk, but you're the other side of the coin is significant.
Debbie, you had a
And-
question?
I just have a question about the actual sort of funding of the project and actually who pays for what when. So for example, you guys have been working for a long time. Theoretically, somebody's paying you for the work that you're doing. So is that money on spec? Is that money, who's paying you now? And then does that all get rolled into the cost of the project? And the reason I say that is, like, for example, when we were doing the library project, we have an architect, we have an engineer, and we have an owner's rep. And our bid package that went out for the project was over 300 pages long. Who does that 300? I know that we pay guys over there to do that 300 pages. Who pays you guys to do that
Yeah.
300 pages?
I guess that's a really good question, right? Because the nuances of how these projects work, it's not always super clear. So the river project is funded through
It's funded through FEMA Advanced Assistance money. So the
Yeah.
money that's paying for me and Megan right now is coming from FEMA.
Mhm.
And it's
And there's no limit to that, you guys can.
There
Of
is.
course there is,
There
yeah,
is.
yeah,
And so we have
yeah.
a finite scope. We're working with Weston,
We have a
Jamaica, and
timeline.
Londonderry. We have a limited budget and we have limited time, and so we're trying to fit as much development of these projects as we can to get you to a solid application. Figure out what those site constraints are, what we need to budget for in final design, so that we have a good project cost estimate for final design, permitting, historical preservation review. This will go through, state historical review, and construction. And so this is just enough money to get you to that
Yeah.
first step of having enough technical material
And
to
then
submit the
all
application.
all the expenses of permitting et cetera. That's all wrapped into the
Yeah,
The
grant
exactly.
as
Yeah.
such, okay.
The grant has, it'll have line items for permitting, final design, which can include things like going back out and resurveying parcels like the library parcel that will have changed since D&K did their
Let's
flood
hope.
study. Right, so that's stuff that we have on our radar that we're saying, okay, we're budgeting for this, we're budgeting for the dry hydrant work, we're budgeting for the regrading and all of that.
Yeah.
Goes into our estimate, and then we add a contingency on top of that,
Yeah.
which at this phase, like I was saying, for us up to 30%. And then escalation, assuming construction in, we're probably gonna assume 2028 to, have that kind of safety. We went with the maximum extent for the bridge, that also represents a high end of the cost, so kind of helping us set you up with a good.
So one more question about funding and expenditures. The library got a grant, a federal grant in connection with the project over there. And it's called a reimbursement grant. So we have to spend the money before we can get reimbursed. So we have to have the money to be able to do what we want to do. We do it, then we actually submit to the US Treasury and say, can you pay us? Is that how this one works? So does the town need to have that money in order to?
HFGP is a reimbursement grant, yeah, but for those large expenditures that you would have, VEM doesn't expect you to. Their finance office would administer that, so you're not gonna be, making a $500,000 expenditure or something without having that fund. They don't expect the town to have that funding. That's handled within the finance section of VEM once the grant is awarded. That's not something to be concerned about.
So the town won't be writing any checks.
The town will be writing checks, but you'll have money from VEM to support that.
Before or after we write the checks?
Before you would write the check.
Okay,
Which is actually different than the library. We don't
Yes.
get,
Yeah.
we don't get our money till after we write the check and prove that the work has been done. So,
Question on the stuff that is dredged out. Is that considered hazardous waste?
We aren't planning any changes to the channel at the bridge site, so there's not gonna be any dredging or changes in the channel elevation.
Louder, please.
Sorry. We aren't planning any dredging at the bridge, so we're not planning for any channel modifications at the bridge. And then, we don't think the sediment upstream of the dam is, we don't have a reason to think it is, but, yeah, it's not considered hazardous waste. So when we worked on, I guess I don't really wanna go on the tangent in the past, but also figuring out disposal sites, that happens in final design, figuring out, waste stream for the bridge that you take out, that has to go somewhere, that all comes in final design.
Yeah, the design and permitting of this it'll take a while, it'll be complicated, but, Wyndham Regional Commission is the entity or the type of entity that can assist with managing projects like this on your behalf, with you.
So basically, using some real rough figures that I do in my head, we're probably gonna be looking at, time this is done in 28, we're probably gonna be looking at somewhere between $4 and $5 million project.
That's a bit higher than we were thinking, but we'll have refined cost estimates kind of based on revising the plans on the, kind of the feedback we've received the last few weeks from.
Well, one of the things I'm basing on is the bridge on Route 100 was replaced, 5-6 years ago?
Right, and you know how much that one was.
Yeah, that was $1.1 million.
Yeah.
And with the way the inflation has gone, so the bridge out here is gonna be knocking on 2 very easily. Or if not more, price of cement has just gone. Yes.
I guess my only question and concern at this point is we do feel rushed. And I understand why things need to happen the way they need to happen. But I think that's the sentiment of everyone. We just had a public informational meeting last night. And we don't know what the feedback is because we're here 24 hours later. And my concern is that we're doing what the town wants us to do. And so I think a little bit of pushback from me seems to be what feels like rush. I wanna know that we're doing the right thing for the town. So again, those were some of my questions, concerns. I've let Jim know. I think I've had a conversation with Deb, with other committee members about just, do we have all of our ducks in a row? Are we doing what the town would want us to do as a committee member, and then also again as a select board member, because two of us happen to be on both committees. So again, no disrespect in any of these comments or concerns. It's really just about the timing. And it was a week and a half ago that we got our first look at the bridge. So kind of new news. And then last night was the public meeting, and we don't have any feedback from that. So those were my concerns, and I'll be completely upfront about this meeting tonight being so close on the tails of the public comment meeting that we had last night. So we have to move forward or not move forward based on absolutely nothing that happened last night. We have to just go with the gut and what we have for information here. So anyway,
Again, we
just
can-
want to
we
explain
can
my
back
perspective.
out. I mean,
Sure.
we're not,
I
it's
understand
important
that.
to understand that we're not committing ourselves to anything except,
I'm just explaining my little bit of like
yeah.
holdback.
Jim and Denny, it's Wayne,
Yeah, hi Wayne.
a comment. As your town moderator, there could be discussion of this matter under other business at the town meeting. Just a note. And also as a town moderator, a motion to table is always in order.
Wayne, could you repeat that? I missed the last sentence.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Lisa. I said, as your town moderator, a discussion of this matter under other business. You can't take any action, but you can have a discussion if there are questions and concerns that have not been resolved in the greater community. That is a thought, just a thought. And in terms of how you run your meeting tonight, it's not my business, but a motion to table is always in order.
Okay, thank you.
Andrew,
Two questions for you guys. Is there a specific deadline for application?
April 30th.
April 30th, okay. And when can you get an answer for the library board about their concerns?
Some of the answers to those questions, we won't have the time by April 30th or the scope and budget to address, and they'll be addressed in parental design.
Yeah.
But we are documenting all of the feedback and considering it in the budgeting for final design. And that's kind of the best we can do as you prep for the grant.
Jim,
Yeah, I just, Deb, I just think that since this is in the record, I just want to clarify your letter. You say that the 15-foot wider and 2 feet higher, but I think,
You can correct it. That's the wrong numbers. It's fine.
yeah, it's 2 feet higher above the water, but it's only 1 foot higher than the roadbed is only 1 foot higher in that proposal. And you and I discussed that to death more times than not, and I just want to make sure that,
I mean, you can correct it in the minutes. I mean, say that.
okay, well, the roadbed as proposed is only 1 foot higher than the existing roadbed. Which isn't to say that that's the final design, but the bottom is 2 feet higher, the top is only 1 foot higher because the bridge is thinner.
Gary,
It seems to me that, I mean, it's just a lot of problem solving that has to happen. So we're going to be hopefully breaking ground and moving forward. So, our main concern is we're not doing something that either has to get undone or creates an impossibility for your design, but you know, you're the expert, so do you see these problems as solvable problems with a, you know,
Yeah.
not an extreme budget?
I don't know if Brandon joined virtually, because I
He
might,
did.
I might ask him to answer that, but
Brandon?
I put him on the spot.
Yeah, that's okay. Can folks hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, I do not believe that the proposed design is presenting unsolvable problems. I do want to be very transparent that it may require slight adjustments to the library plan as it stands, but I also want to be very clear that those adjustments would be coordinated with the library and the committee and taken on as part of this project at no extra expense to the town or the committee or the library.
Hold it, did you just say the library plan needs to be changed?
No, no, absolutely not. I'm sorry if I
What did
misspoke.
you, what did you say?
What I was trying to say is that due to the increase in elevations of Lawrence Hill Road, specifically the access to the library that is currently proposed and will be in construction this construction season may have to be modified. We just might have to increase elevations at that access point.
Brandon, you may
Brandon,
not understand, you may not understand the process of approvals of permits. The site plan has been through the state, several departments, and the DRB. It's not something you twiddle your thumbs and say, oh, let's change this.
Can I
Go
add
ahead.
something? Brandon, I don't know if you wanna specify that those changes would, you know, it's like after this, so in terms of the timeline, the library project is progressing, you have your permits, you're breaking ground. The bridge is going to happen after that, so this would be modifications at that entrance to regrade after you've completed your library project in a way that Brandon was describing is compatible with these library concerns.
And it would become a part of the river budget.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be something that would be an expense put on the library to.
And to elaborate, those adjustments would require either amendments to existing permits or new permits to go before the town, and those would be taken on as part of this project.
Those would be in the bridge permits, because there's part of the bridge construction, so all the construction related to the bridge falls under the bridge permits, not the library permits. It's a different project,
Okay,
yeah.
so, you know, I mean, what are we talking about for modifications? Are we talking about suddenly having to manage a 2-foot grade change between the entrance of the driveway and the parking
The
lot? or-
proposed design is a 1-foot difference, and we looked at the final designs for the library. And I think, you know, anyone who's gone through an engineering or construction process also knows that, you know, you go to construction and there's gonna be changes when you're in construction.
Right.
And so we're gonna look at your post-construction library, your as-built from the library. We're gonna have more information to inform the bridge design, because that project will most likely have been completed by 2020.
It has to be.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
And so that's, you know,
My
that's.
shelf life is only to 2020.
That's how they're staggered, and so it's really hard for us to answer those questions
Mhm.
when you all are still in the construction phase, because
Right.
you don't know exactly what that grade is gonna look like yet either. I mean, you have the plans, which are plans
Right,
are
but I mean,
great,
that
but
foundation is going in at a certain grade.
exactly,
And that is important.
it is. and
Like, do we
we'll-
need to raise it? Is it?
No, you do
Yeah.
not need to change your library
Okay.
project right now.
Okay.
You're going to construction. And the bridge is going to, you know, adapt and respond, and there are things that are challenging with the site, right? We are constrained by structures on both sides, we have steep banks on one side, you have concerns around traffic and line of sight. And those are challenging questions to address and, you know, yeah.
I myself, I'm not used to going into things with so many unanswered questions.
Yeah, this is kind of getting, and we're here to provide the technical support. Funding for projects that you all support and get the funding for that final, that next step of answering the questions, but yeah, we're really here for that technical support stuff.
Could I
Thank you.
comment?
Oops.
Sure.
Thank you. So this is Linda Sarnioki. I'm on the library board. I'm also on the flood resilience committee. It seems to me that we have 2 months until the application is due. During that time, there probably will be some additional planning and design completed. I think you said you had to have a 30% design by the time you apply, which is a third of the project. We then have that much more time, several years, in fact, or a few years, I guess I should say more accurately, to refine that design. You're absolutely right, Denny, that there are, that there are lots of questions that aren't resolved. But those seem to me to be questions that can be resolved in the design phase, which we haven't finished yet. What they're asking for us, what we need to do before April 30th or 28th or whatever the date is simply to put in an application. If the design is something we don't like, we have an out ramp, we have an exit ramp, and we have considerable power between now and whenever we have to say okay to make those design changes, make it possible for the road to work with the library property, for those questions about height of the bridge and whatever to be resolved. At this point, we're just being asked to go forward with the application. And that's it, at no cost to us to go forward with that application. If we don't want to do it after that, we certainly have the right to do that. But at this point, it's no cost, and we still have plenty of time for design changes and answering those many questions, which are absolutely important. Thank you.
I think that was really well said, and it kind of speaks to your concerns about the rushing. I mean, we did start River Project last summer.
Right.
But
a lot happened in the last couple of months.
The technical phase, it took a while to get the results that we've gotten. So I hear you.
Yeah.
But, and yes, the decision-making process is crunched. However, as she just said in a good way, is that you won't have that rushedness when once you have the award and you're in the design phase. That will be, you'll probably feel like it's dragging out quite a lot. But I mean, you'll have a lot of time to make those decisions and think about all of the choices that you have.
Appreciate that. Just it happened on 2 days back to back, 24 hours. So
no,
that was all. And finally, I just want to make a point. There was another committee, resiliency committee member that could not be here that basically was echoing the same sentiments. So on record, Will Freeman, resiliency committee, is feeling a bit rushed. So we're speaking for various people who have mentioned that, and I appreciate what Linda's just said, and I think that's very clear and concise.
So I want to go back to the design. So by the time the grant is awarded, we won't know what the bridge will look like. We won't know the gradings. We won't know any of those things. We just have like a.
Well, you'll be going into the grant application with the preliminary design, and then the design won't progress until after the grant is awarded.
So explain to me what the preliminary design is.
It's the 30% design.
Well, I understand that, but is the bridge in it? Are the elevations in it? Is the grading in it? Is the impact on the town office in it? What does that 30% mean?
So the 30% is gonna have kind of like the conceptual sketch of the bridge.
So no real bridge. I mean, we won't know which. We won't know which bridge you're proposing. We won't know which bridge it is.
Because there won't be a bridge picked. It's just a placeholder bridge.
Well, but then it's not gonna, well, whatever. It's not addressing some of our concerns, but anyway.
That's right, but those concerns, the only thing that this motion does is.
I understand what this motion does. This takes us to April 30th. No, this takes us to.
Submits the application.
It takes us to
Submitting the application.
Submitting the application, but the application is not gonna have those things in it that, I mean, it's not gonna have a design of the bridge.
It's
It's
gonna
not
have,
gonna have the grading. So we really won't know even at that point what we're agreeing to.
so typically in a 30% design, we include an existing conditions sheet that has your survey of the existing site. We have, the bridge with the existing bridge dimensions with a drawing that shows the proposed bridge dimensions. Usually we're showing at that stage a like potential type of bridge to go in that place. So like we were working in another town right now on sort of a similar site where it's a dam and a bridge. And at the preliminary stage, we had shown a culvert option and a bridge option. And then they selected which one to progress to final design. Here we know we're going with a bridge, so we're gonna probably continue with showing a type of truss bridge because it reaches those hydraulic capacity goals, narrower deck goals, minimizing bridge or roadway elevation changes. So we're gonna keep progressing probably with that through the preliminary design and have a bit more information than we had in the conceptual design. Grading is going to come in final design, and that happens in final design because it can take quite a bit of time. And so it doesn't make a ton of sense to invest in the final grading at this stage in the design. That'll
Okay,
come later.
so, but you have to ask for a specific amount of money for the
Yeah.
grant.
We do
So you sort of have to know,
bridge sizing and general type, and I don't,
General type, basically.
yeah, Brandon, I don't know if you wanna add in things bridge pricing too, but with the sizing and type, we can get to that preliminary level of paying a probable cost. That's what goes into the grant with the contingency.
so I want to hear more about this bridal design of bridges. Because I found,
That's Jim's term.
I just did a little bit of research and we found those two companies that make much more attractive bridges than Contact makes. So I would highly encourage you to look at those companies.
Well, you threatened to send that to us
I'm going to share.
tomorrow, yeah.
Yeah.
So and Deb, as usual, I will forward it to you first thing. So
Yeah, and Brandon and I will chat and within our current, scope and timeline, see what we can do. In terms of thinking of, looking at others but
Well, it seems like we beat this pretty good. You can submit the thing. And there is one thing, there's no guarantee you're gonna get the grant.
Yes. We'll know in the summertime whether it passes state review committee to be submitted to FEMA. So it's not guaranteed this grant will even move forward to FEMA.
And you'll reach out at that point, obviously.
Yeah, of
Okay.
course, I'll be in touch. Yeah.
Well, I really thank the town, the select board and the committees and all your work for, focusing on building resiliency for the next flood, because I think it's really important. And I hope my concerns about the library don't, I am really supportive of finding more resilience in the village, so just want to make sure that we don't, our project isn't going to come in conflict.
there is a motion on the floor. I don't know whether it's been seconded. Should we even pursue it, or do you guys want to kick it down do you want to table it, kick it down the road? Because I mean, I gotta say, this seems cost-free, commitment-free, and a pretty easy decision, but it's not my decision to make.
And it's not always about the money, but it is about, does the town want this? And I don't have enough individual information, but I do have enough information from the committee and what you've explained here tonight, that I think moving to the next phase is doable. So Jim has made a motion. Howie, what are you thinking?
Well, I'm waiting for the vote.
Okay, well, we need a second.
Well, if you need a second, I'll second the motion.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Lisa,
I said
She
aye.
said aye.
I'm only supposed to vote and break ties. So I guess it passed.
Don't we have to have three?
We need three. We need three ayes.
It is a tie.
It's not a tie. We haven't, we need a majority of a quorum. And the quorum is, we have a 5-member, well, now a 4-member board, and a majority is 3. So we need 3 ayes to make it work. So Howie,
Then I move that we table the motion.
well, we can do that later if, or,
Can I throw this one out?
yeah,
Wayne suggested,
we table it.
no, let me finish. Have a discussion at town meeting. And we could get a better feel of the town's view of this thing. And so if we could do that, the select board could hold a special meeting at 1 o'clock on town meeting day and take care of this matter. That's next Tuesday.
Okay, again, we can't do it the same day as town meeting because you will have new members. And they hadn't been sworn in.
We can get that done.
Oh, you do you.
That's just an option,
Yep.
or if you have it the next day at night.
Well, you still have till April 30th or whatever that date was.
No, because you have to,
We have to actually assemble the application. We have a lot of work ahead of us.
They've got a lot of paperwork, Kelly.
And we're gonna do
Yeah.
one round of design revisions, and so we do need enough lead time to do that.
So you voted for it, right?
we have 2 yeses, 1 abstain, and you were a no, so.
No, I
Oh,
didn't
Oh,
vote.
you didn't
you
vote
didn't
yet?
vote.
Oh,
Oh, the hell, they only turned for me once. Go for it.
Okay. Thank you, Denny. So the motion passes.
yes. 3 votes. Okay, I'm done with this subject. Number 9, let's go to 10 and get out of here.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
Megan.
Thank you all for coming.
Yeah,
Let's, thank you guys for coming by.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Yeah, enjoy your dinner.
I haven't changed anything.
Oh, good, good. Well, go home and have a cocktail.
Hey, Katie, we still got one sheet left to do.
Oh, yeah.
I thought I was getting kicked out.
No.
No,
I was like,
no, you're all right.
I gotta go.
No, you're not.
These are all.
Nobody has to go. These
Yeah.
guys can stay.
They can,
Yeah.
they won't, but they can.
But I'm just
They
taking a
won't, but they
wild
can.
guess. They're not.
Yeah, thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew, thanks, Deb.
Good night, Andrew.
Thank you.
And Howie, thank you for your service too.
Oh, thank you.
We go back to number 2, public comment.
Who do we have left on?
Howie and Kim and Gina.
Okay.
All right,
No public.
review the minutes.
I wouldn't.
Board meeting of
Yeah, the
February
town
11th.
plan. I'll make a motion to approve select board meeting minutes dated February 11th.
I'll second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Regular select
Hands
board
all
meeting.
cramped up. My ordinarily
started.
completely illegible signature has gone downhill even further. So I'm gonna move approval of the select board meeting minutes of February 11th.
Second,
Was it at 6:30 or was it 7:30?
That's my mistake and I.
Okay, yeah,
On item 6, it should
Oh.
be, I voiced concern about the dam and the bridge, not just the bridge. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I did fix 7:30, but I had already printed these.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
got it. There you go.
All you need is a signature page, right? Here you go, Howie.
I got quite a list for you, honey.
There he goes. He signed. He's good.
Yep, I got, better get my pen out.
Long range. Number 4, EMD Director forms, motion to appoint Fred Burke.
So EMD. I met with Fred Burke twice now, and he has accepted the position of EMD. I believe that the forms, the LEMP forms, was that what we worked on?
That's what
Is that-
we're working
yep.
on, yeah.
Yep. So we are in the process of completing that form. I'm helping fill in some of the gaps for him, and Shauna will do the recording of that somewhere. And so, yeah, so we have a person
is-
who accepted.
Yeah, he has also been in touch with Tyga from the state and Alyssa, who was just here. So those ladies have
Talk to us.
Yep.
informed
So
him.
send him an appointment letter.
So I
and-
did put a copy of that if you guys just
Oh.
wanted to look at it. I have not sent it yet. Only because
Oh,
it says that we
nice.
have to, because I said that we appointed him today.
Does he have a local address?
I don't believe one that he gets mail at. So, and I was going to ask him where he wanted me
He
to.
bought the place across the road from what used to be Brandemeyer, so a little place down
Oh,
there.
oh, yeah, yeah,
Over the bank.
yeah.
Oh, we need a motion.
So I move that we approve this hire.
Appointment of Fred
Appointment,
Burke.
sorry.
Yep, I'll
I'll s-
second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Woo!
Well, I will tell you, yeah, right. Shauna it was almost her job.
Yeah.
We missed it. Narrowing
So
it down.
you have all the contact info for Fred that you
Yes.
need, so you're good with that? Okay.
All right, usually we do this next one after town meeting, but
Okay, I just got it. I wasn't sure.
we don't have a lot of choices, so do you wanna take care of it
Well, that's what I
now?
was.
Oh, let's do it.
Do we have to make a motion?
Yeah.
All right, I'll
So
make a
I'm
mo,
gonna-
oh, go
yeah.
ahead, Jim. Nope, I like it when you make them. Make them.
I'm gonna move, we approve the Vermont Journal as newspaper of record for legal advertising and help wanted.
I'll second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. 911 coordinator, commissioner. Alman doesn't want to do it anymore, I guess.
It is the responsibility of the select board to do 911 addressing until we find a new appointment. Is that correct? Looks like Shauna's saying yes.
I believe so. That's what the woman who I've been emailing with, and I don't know her name,
Okay.
but I can,
I don't have a person yet. I haven't found somebody yet.
Is that something the listers can do?
I believe the process is before you start your building, you kind of with the driveway access permit, a lot of
Right.
times you'll ask for the 911 address at
Yeah.
that point. And I believe what Alman has to do is he has to submit a request or a form to the state to identify the 911 address.
Yeah, and then it also gets linked up with the map and stuff somehow. That's why I was wondering if one of the listers could take that on as a responsibility, since usually when there's, a new structure or a change in a structure, I remember there being one or two addresses that changed when I was a lister, and that we had to contact Alman to get the address changed and the map annotated and all that other kind of stuff. I just didn't know if there was a preclusion.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of paperwork to it. I was at the town garage today and there is a huge file.
I have
of papers.
zero. I looked through everything here, so Alman must have it all.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
It's a whole
And
file.
it's very limited.
Yeah.
Just the
Hi.
research that I've done.
It's Kim.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Hi.
Yes.
So we also have a book of all the applications, and whatever Alman fills out or whoever's doing it gives us a form. They mail it as their recommendation up to the state 911 board. And then I notify listers and the zoning, and I've never heard of anything coming back being declined once Alman's mailed it out. So we do have documentation and a book in the clerk's office, if you're looking for what it's been done in the past.
Is there a way to do that online now, Kim, or are you saying that it's kind of a mailed?
He still mails it, and I don't know if that's an Alman thing, but I believe he still mails it. And I don't know if it can be done online.
Yeah. Okay. Can we table it and try to do some looking around, Penny?
Yeah, we can, but my impression of how it works is that people have to apply for a driveway access.
Correct.
Before he can establish the 911
Correct.
address, because he has to measure from the closest one, and it goes in 50-foot increments.
Correct.
To come up with the number.
And not all access permits lead to 911 addresses. Sometimes it's just an access for logging or an access for something else. The 911 address, I believe, is geared towards structures. Kim, am I close? Okay, well, we don't have a person, so I think we should look.
We'll check it out.
Go see who I can find that might be interested in such a thing.
Has Alman vacated the position, or is he sticking around for a little while?
I mean, I don't think he'll leave us hanging.
I think if we ask him to stay till we find somebody,
Yeah,
he'll give us a deadline.
that's my.
And
that would be typical of Alman, and I just want to.
Is this an appointment, Jim? Because if this is an appointment, does that mean that it has to be a Weston resident again? Are we?
Oh God, I hope not.
Well, wait a minute. They just changed rules on that. A lot of these offices now can be held by non-residents.
True. I don't think this is
definitely an appointed position, and I'm guessing that.
Well, that's
there
what
wouldn't be a
residency
requirement.
if it has to be a residential requirement.
Yeah.
And just one other thought, is it anything you want zoning to take on? Because if they're
That's-
only, do they want, is it anything you want zoning to take on?
I mean, he's got his hands full.
Probably not, yeah.
Okay,
I was wondering if somebody at the fire department, that's maybe somebody over there that has a
That's a
little
really
extra
good
time.
idea.
Or maybe Hugh Hart, I mean, he has been following, Almond's lead on a lot of this 911 stuff, and this might be something he's a resident, so check. And he's familiar with the
I wonder-
911 process.
We could reach out to,
Leo.
Leo and to, God help me,
Brian?
yes.
It's like your wife. I'm like finishing your sentences like you do at home. Okay. 911. I'll make a few phone calls. I'll see if I can get any interest from someone, and we'll see if we can fill
To me,
it.
that would be a great synergistic way to do it, because, they're the guys that are
Well,
gonna be
the
using
road
it.
crew is ideal because that's just, they're out there and they're knowing
know.
this stuff. I
Yeah.
get that. I just don't want to overwhelm anybody, so I don't want to, put it directly on one person. However, if Almond's willing to stay to give us a little bit of time to find somebody, then wonderful.
Does someone want to talk to Almond, or do you want me to give him a call?
I think if a 911 request comes in, it comes into you as part of the access. Don't you get the access permit request?
Oh, yes, I usually do get the access.
So if something comes in,
I'll
we'll-
run it by him.
Yeah. I don't bump into him. Okay. So Denny will take care of Almond, and I will ask a couple of people if they're interested.
Town meeting day. So we're kind of on one page, I think. One person should respond to the probable questions we get from the fire department rather than each one of us responding.
So there's several things with the fire department. There's the fire department and FEMA. There's the fire department and the current administration, and then there's the fire department and their wants and needs for new buildings. So there's several different.
I
want to schedule a select board meeting for anything with fire department in regards to the new building and there's some talk about them wanting to take over the existing building and stuff. I just feel like in front of 75 people, when we have so many other issues, perhaps that's more of a select board to fire department conversation. So
could we have, I mean, I like that idea. I think it ought to be a separate meeting with, and maybe we invite them to come to a select board meeting and just,
absolutely,
because I told you, I had
Yeah.
Brian got a hold of me
Yep.
at the transfer station, and then Leo got a hold of me at the meeting last
night.
Was it last night? Yes, last night. Seems like a lifetime ago. And good questions all, but I think the temperature is higher than it should be.
Way higher.
And
It's a great way of putting it.
and I think if we can just get them in here and hear what they have to say, and
Right, I just don't want to do a 45-minute debate at town meeting about things that we have already had in discussions here.
should we reach out to them before town meeting and invite them?
It's still gonna come up at town meeting, and I just think somebody from the select board should just say, listen, if that is a discussion to be had with the select board separately from town meeting.
Exactly.
And those kind of things.
But if we had that
3 days
scheduled
before the
ahead of
next.
time, if we get it scheduled this week before town meeting, and those guys know that that's gonna happen, that may cool their jets a little bit at town meeting, because it would be an embarrassment for them to, you know.
Yeah, I think the concerns are legitimate. I think that there's a variety of questions that they have. We can answer some of them at town meeting. And then the other part of this is things that we don't have all the answers to, and I'm not prepared to stand up at town meeting with this document and that one from 1968 and say, this is what we have. So
But
I would
my only point
prefer-
is if we reach out to Brian and Leo,
Yep.
maybe Leo is the right guy, and just say, hey, listen, we wanna, you know, we've been talking a lot about, you know, all these
Their
issues that you
concerns.
guys have,
Yep.
and we would like to, you know, devote, pick a number, half an hour.
Yep.
At either, you know, one of, maybe our second select board meeting in March,
Mhm.
and I'm glad to make that call to him.
Yeah.
And
agree.
so bring your guys in, and then
Mm-hmm.
at time, once he's got that, he'll tell the rest of the fire department guys. And then it's not like we're pulling a fast one on them at town meeting. We can say, hey, listen, guys, we've got this thing, we'll talk about it on March 25th.
Things could still come up, and I think,
Oh,
you
and
know, I
that's
think if
fine.
we have answers that we can provide to them, that's fine. I don't want to be vague. I want to be very specific. And I think that can be done in a smaller setting when you don't have 75 eyes on you that have no clue
Yeah,
what the discussions
and I'm
have
wondering,
been.
what is this all about? Yeah.
Correct.
I will
Does
call,
that make sense, Denny?
yeah,
Yeah.
I'll call Leo.
Anything else?
Just on a separate town meeting for North Star, I sent a letter to Tom Doherty and I sent an email, and I haven't received any response about either. Those were both invitations to attend the town meeting. So I just don't know where we stand.
Okay.
The invite has been sent,
Yeah.
or was sent months ago, but I just wanted to bring you all up to date.
He may come. I mean, he might come
Yeah,
to
he may
town
come.
meeting.
I mean, I
If he
didn't
doesn't,
specifically say.
leave it on the agenda for a follow-up in what?
May.
May, yeah,
Yeah.
March and April look
Yeah, we could,
busy.
it would be easy as Wayne goes through that list
Mhm.
for the appropriations. If nobody is there, we can just say,
We'll follow up.
Wayne, we'd like you to delete that from the appropriations list, and we'll follow up with them at a later date.
I don't even know whether we have to delete it from the list. We can just hold it until we are sure that the money goes directly to the health center, which doesn't get dispersed until October. So
Sure.
we have plenty of
That's
time.
fine, yeah.
Little schools should be there doing a bake sale, as far as I know.
Nice.
Great, yeah, I love
And
that.
they will, you know, take in, take out, whatever they bring. Other than that, GNAT is coming, and they will film it, which is helpful, and I think that's kind of it. Kim, do you have anything for town meeting?
I don't. We have the ongoing election, 8 AM to 7 PM for the school. I don't really have anything for town meeting.
Okay.
I guess I have a question for Kim.
Yeah.
It's not really about town meeting. It's about something in the book. When we move the money from the ARPA, so there was 52,998 in the fund, and we moved 47 of it into the ARPA projects fund.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it went into the interest. And I feel like since it's an ARP, it was a special fund, that the interest should really go with the fund. Now, I don't know the logistics. So I was just gonna ask you.
I did do that. I've got that 52,997,8,999. Anyway, in the special fund, and I put the interest in with it. So I'll just have to look at, I don't have one of the books here at home, but I'll look at it tomorrow.
Yep, no worries. It looks like the same amount that's withdrawn, that it's in the negative in the fund is also the same amount that's in the interest income. So I can see where the two numbers are, but I just thought that might need clarification, especially if it comes up at town meeting. So
Yeah,
if you've
and
already dealt,
yeah, I do have it allocated, the interest and the balance of whatever it was. And then it is, it was also a timing. That's part of the problem with the book is I had to do something in January to physically move the money. And that's why it was listed the way it was. But I'll double check it tomorrow and get back to you. But I'll be prepared if there's a question.
got it.
Okay, then we'll go on to 8, ethics training.
Hey.
I'm gonna do it, I promise.
Me
It
too,
is-
I
there's
promise
no-
after him.
There's no question and answer, you just sit
I'm
there.
good.
Watch it, yeah.
Oh, Howie's done.
How are you?
Yes, thank you,
Howie, you are my hero.
I just.
Again.
Had a couple of DRB members that have completed it, so
Wow.
some listers that have completed it, so we're on the right track. The only thing is, we also will have open meeting law training, which I have not seen yet. But I am assuming that
It's
it
gonna
is
be
also
right
going to be
after
like a
town
video.
I
type
guarantee
thing
you
as
it'll
well.
pop out.
Dangerous to assume.
I know.
It'll pop out right after town meeting because everybody will have new
Right,
members,
and
and so
It is a new requirement as of this 2025, so I just thought.
I think we
get
should
the
just have
ethics
a,
behind us.
just create a holiday of trainings.
I wish,
You
but
know?
you have to have your own, they want you, so the one thing that you may have to set up is in that link that I sent, you just have to set up your email and a password. And then that's how they track who you are.
I know, Denny, I know.
All right, we're going
got
on
it.
payroll.
All right,
Yeah.
Yes.
it's all done with that.
Hold on, hold on.
Okay,
So I'm gonna move, hold on, get to it. I'm gonna move approval of payroll check warrant report number 4 in the amount of $13,447.14.
I'll second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Aye.
You sign that, Lisa?
Yep.
Oh, yeah,
I
you
handed
did.
it to you. You need a nap
I do, I need a drink.
and a nap.
All right, the vendors,
Hold on. I don't have the vendors.
all right, I'll do it. $29,982.27.
I'll second that every week,
That's the lowest it's ever been, I think.
I think so. Where's Bruce Downer?
All
when
those
you
in
need him?
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Yeah, there you are, Lisa, and you've got such a great signature, it almost.
No,
it
I
just
really
fades
don't.
into the-
I'm
Into
so,
the typing.
so tired.
Okay, old and new business.
I got nothing, but I think we ought to go into, well, I'm gonna move, we go into executive session on personnel.
A second,
I'll second.
Katie, this is when we have to ask you to leave.
She's happy to leave. She's done.
Yeah.
She tapped.
I'm here.
You're here.
Who seconded that?
I did.
Okay. Hey, this is, there are certain things that we are allowed to discuss in executive session with nobody around. And there's personnel matters, contract matters, or, you know, if we're looking to negotiate a lease or a purchase or something like that, where you don't want all our discussions to be on the public record.